Hey everybody, what's happening? I'm Tommy and you're on the boat. Hope you're doing well. Brock Bandy, good to have you here. Christian Lago, not to be confused with the Christian who was always first. Roberta, good to see you. Vicky Hurley, how are you? Let's do, am I considering Derek? Well, we're going to get on that. We're going to talk about that. Here, we'll put that one up there. So just because I'm sometimes just a bit brain dead. Tennessee girl, what's happening? There's Christian, always first. Impressive, really, if you think about it. I mean, I'm sure he's got a life, but he's always here first. Josh, Virginia, how are you? Alex Moore, good to see you. Neptune Lioness, it's an honor. Whoa, what just happened? Man, that took off quick. Cindy G, how you doing? Glad that you are here. Let's see, who else we got? Maybe I can get through this quickly. Barbara Wade, how are you? Do me a favor, smack that like button, hit subscribe, and hit the bell for notification. I'm a YouTuber. Chicago Jane, how are you? Glad that you are here. You know, us YouTubers get quite a bit of self-worth out of that. And from Massachusetts, Anna Banana. Liz Tricks, good to see you. Lacey Silver, how are you? Bada bing, bada boom. That would be number 3. We've blocked Bada Bing and Bada Boom 1 and 2 for trying to ride the leg. Skeeter, how are you? Jersey Gal. Jason Fresnel. Jason Fresnel. Why does that sound so familiar? I think you've been here. Cornbread, how are you? The Punisher, good to see you. Auntie KK. Wouldn't be a show without you. Stick around, people. This one's going to be a barn burner. It really is. Helen Baker, how are you? Chicago Jane. I always get this wrong, so we'll just do this one. Good to have you here. I'll remember your comment, I promise, because that's what we're going to talk about anyway. Annette Brabin. Of course, the Johnny Scoville is here. DS Kitty Diane, he's kind of a big deal. Megan, how are you? He's kind of that big deal. Just want a bird. Jennifer Minton, thank you for being here. Tahoe Trinkets, it's an honor. Debbie Gonzalez, hey Trace. Trace, you're kind. West Coast Fancy Nancy, how are you? Third Eye Open. Sam Lamb. Alaskan, good to have you here. Debbie, loving life. I was thinking about you today. Lou, how are you? Lisa Palmer. There you go. And I am caught up. How about that? People, this case is dragging, and a bunch of people think it's a cold case. Starting to get boring. Lisa Palmer, I'm glad you're here. Did Callella do a proffer? If I had to put money on it, I would say absolutely. So we may as well get right into this subject because there's an awful lot that is going on concerning Derek Callella. And I don't mean that there's a great story there. Carrie Cushman, how are you? What I mean instead is, truthfully, I personally believe that it is being misreported in a way that is so egregious. Alicia, how are you? That at this point, it's basically just a grab for clicks. And they put up stuff. I've watched people in the last 2 days talk about Derek Callella that know as much about the federal system as anybody on planet Earth, and they're just straight BSing everybody. Carolina, Canada, glad to have you here because it is that's a kind thing to say. Why did they seal part of the documents? We'll put that one up while I'm pontificating because that really is the question, isn't it? And a lot of people are reporting things about this. For instance, he had a 9-second phone call. I guarantee you that is what has been suppressed because they don't want us to know about the fact that he made a call and that there was collusion between him and the brother-in-law, Neckbeard. Here's the deal, people. So if you follow exactly what's going on in the Derek Callella case, if you're brand new, Derek Callella is the guy that was arrested. He's the only arrest so far that has happened in this in the Nancy Guthrie case, and he confessed and cut a deal. What had he done? Well, they're going to charge him with harassing the family. He never got any money. It wasn't even as much of a demand. He just said, did you get the Bitcoin? And they reported him so quickly. Anyway, so if you continue to read through his entire indictment, you're going to come across the fact that there is a portion of this that has been sealed, right? And everybody and their brother is going completely off the chain on this. Hey, Deb in Oregon, good to have you here. Texas shenanigans. So here's what's really going on, in my humble opinion. Now, and I think that most of the people that are reporting on this, particularly those who are tied into the federal system, are just being disingenuous, and it's a way to make money. Because here's what it comes down to. If you read Derek Callella and where he's at in life, not just this particular case, he is, hey, there she is. He is facing other charges. In fact, when this went down, he was already facing other charges. That is my wife. Relatable Reese, if you've never gone by and checked out her channel, it's 8 times more fun than this one. 222 of you in here, do me a favor, smack that like button. It really does help, and it pisses off all of those people that can't stand me, like YouTube, because I say all of the things I'm not supposed to. There's a lot of truth to this. I'm sorry, there's a lot of truth to this. This is a great comment. Tommy, come on, man. Tweaker's not watching Nancy on his TV or computer. He's either taking it apart to see how it works or pawning it for drugs. I remember, this is a true story. I was with a girl I was with at the time, and we had a guy come over to the house. And I said, I'm going to run out and get beer. My wife was leaving. I said, can you just drive me to get beer and bring me back? And she's like, sure. Can I talk to you real quick? And I went in the kitchen, and she's like, I have a feeling if we leave this dude here, he's going to take apart the dog and see if he can't make it bark right. You know, like you come home and the tweaker's going, yeah, your dog was making this terrible sound. But I took him apart. Tweakers scare the hell out of me. They really do. One of the saddest things ever, I had a guy give me a bag, like one of those purple ones, that Crown Royal bag. And I said, what is this? He goes, I want to see if you can put this back together. It was a beautiful, very expensive pocket watch. However, that's not, it was absolutely impossible to put back together. When I started to do it, it was missing about 9 parts, and it was a very expensive watch, but he got all tweaked out and decided he was going to take it apart. For me, it's suspect that the drug treatment program location is a secret. Something is rotten in Denmark. Many are speculating that he may be in some kind of protective custody. All right, so here's the deal on this. The reason that they would put him in protective custody is because he was getting ready to testify. You know the safest protective custody that you can do? You leave the guy in jail. You don't give him a low bail. What happened in this case, in my humble opinion, is he already had charges, right? He was under investigation for ripping off $400,000 from the United States government during COVID. Do you guys know this? Put a 2 in the chat if you knew this. Please. Put a 2 in the chat if you knew this. But the guy already had pending charges. He's also already been to federal prison once. So he knows the drill. And my gut says he cut a deal, and what is being sealed has nothing to do with Nancy Guthrie because he did that alone. So what has been sealed is this guy is ratting on the people that he used to work with, right? The people, because there was a bunch of people that are being indicted on this. My gut says that's what it is. Because if he was the witness in the biggest case going on planet Earth, they're not going to hide him by saying they're sending him to a rehab. Why are they not telling us where the rehab is? Because what would happen? Huh? I can think of YouTubers who have 3 initials before their name that would be there by tomorrow night at midnight, harassing the dog shit out of everybody in that rehabilitation center. Just bad form. It makes perfect sense in the most high-profile case in the United States of America to do everything within your power to make sure that people don't know what rehab this guy is going to. It would really be bad form to leak that out because this case is sensational at a level that no other is, right? Not in a real long time. This is off the hook. The number of people that are super into this case that don't even live in the United States of America, right? That's odd. But the pressure that's being brought to bear on this case, can you imagine what would have happened if they released where he was at? If they said, yeah, he's at a place called Bristol Cone, right? And this is the address, or this is where he's going. How many YouTubers do you think would be parked out in front of that thing just trying to get a view of him? Or maybe yell him, questions at him over the fence. But this is the kind of thing that would absolutely go batshit crazy. So in my humble opinion, that's not as much of a red flag as you might think it is. And it's a federal case. The feds don't do shit the same way as the state does. They do things very, very differently. And they do so because they don't have to do anything. And any other way than they want to. Question, Tommy, is it legal for a judge to let you sign a plea deal if you're high on meth at the time? I sure as hell don't think so. Well, is it legal? I don't know that there's a law, right? It's bad form, but to be sure, if they were convinced that the guy was on meth at the time, then, we'll see what happens. I know that he used before he went to court, but methamphetamine will test in your system for 72 hours, right? At a minimum. I mean, that's, or I'm sorry, at a maximum. That's about the far end, unless you're doing just going nuts all day. And it's not going to get much more than that. Your body just processes that stuff out in 72 hours, right? You can't test for it after that. So he failed, but he could have done it 2 days before he went to court. I've been to court wasted. If you're a drug addict, you're wasted all the time. Sheila Wainwright, good to see you. Jet Set, how are you? 90% of federal cases end up in plea deals, says Sam Lamb. I don't know the exact statistic on that, but I would not be surprised in any way, shape, or form to find out that that's a fact. In fact, if you asked me to guess, I probably would have guessed a little bit higher, in all honesty, just because they estimate that somewhere around like 98% of cases, and some people report 99%. But either way, out of 100 cases, the feds are going to win 98 of them. And the vast majority is because, like my friend has just said, 9 out of 10 of them are going to cut a deal, because in the feds, if you plead guilty, you're taking your offense level and dropping it 3 points. And that's a hell of a lot of time in prison. So they have designed the system to make it so that people plead. I've told this story on here before, but there was a guy that pled guilty to a bank. I did. How's that? Because his criminal record was so bad that if he decided to go to court on it, he could have ended up doing a hell of a lot more time. And the FBI actually figured it out and ended up sort of getting the guy out. But it was a pretty messed up situation. Roberta, how are you? See, I don't feel any older than the last time you saw me, Roberta. Callella, and by the way, it's Callella. Callella is driving me nuts. How is it that nobody can say the guy's names right? Callella seems to be somebody who doesn't learn from his mistakes. Fraud against the U.S. government, fraud in relation to Nancy Guthrie, fraud on a credit card scam that put him in prison in the feds the first time. And you know what? He had a really short prison sentence. Too short, right? Too short. If you look at how much the people that are into this, the people that have spent time in prison or anything else, you get what's called a judgment of confinement, right? Or commitment, judgment of commitment, JOC, the fellas call it. And it's not your paperwork. It doesn't say who was charged with what or anything else, but it's 5 pages and it's boilerplate. Everybody's is the same. If they're on page 5, if you have to register as a sex offender, that's going to show up there. So most guys, they can check just that paperwork and know whether or not the guy's got bad charges or ever has. The other thing that it can do is it will say you were sentenced to this much time for this crime. And if a guy comes in and it says you were sentenced for 550 grams of methamphetamine, right? And your sentence was 3 years. Dude's a rat. It's that simple. And after you've done enough time, you've seen everything that people are going to come through for. I mean, honest to God, in the first year, you're going to see that. There's just people counterfeiting, murder for hire, whatever the hell it is in the federal system. You're going to see all of it pretty quickly, right? It's just kind of how that works. So you get pretty good at finding out how much time all of these things carry. And very often, even in some cases, there are mandatory minimums. And if the person comes in and he didn't get the mandatory minimum, then obviously the guy ratted. And Kaya's first rip was too short. Not massively, because it's not doesn't carry a lot of time anyway. But this time around, he's cutting a deal, people. Plain and simple, he's cutting a deal. And because of how low his criminal history points are, in spite of the fact that he breaks the law, in spite of the fact that he's been to prison, he still falls in a criminal history 3 or below. And if your criminal history points are 3 or below, you have a shot at getting probation. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but you're eligible for it. If you have a criminal history of 4 or higher, there's no way. Nothing on that guidelines do you fall into a category that could allow you for home confinement, that could allow you for ankle monitors or any such shit. You're going to prison, right? It's just that simple. Hello, Lisa. Derek Callella, that's not the situation that he finds himself in, right? He's a criminal history 3. And what he pled guilty to, people, and this is standard operating procedure as well. People are like, why did they let him plead guilty to that? Because the other option is you want the individual, the United States of America wants you to plead guilty, not just because it's simple as hell, but because it saves a grip of money, right? When you have to line up everybody and put on a court case, 40 grand is the number that everybody always banties around in the feds. I've heard lawyers say it. I've heard tons of different people say it. Deborah, how are you? That's a lot of money. So if they can throw a deal at you, so no matter what the hell it is that you did, unless it's so effing vile that they're not coming off of any of it, right? So you kidnap a child, you take it across state lines and you kill it, they're not making a deal with you. There's no reason on God's green earth they're not going to make a deal with you. But for the most part, everything else on the table you can get a deal on. And you will find if you talk to people that have done time, a lot of times you'll plead to shit that you got a decent chance of beating. But if your criminal record is bad enough, right, they'll knock this thing down enough that you're not going to do a lot of time. If you go to court and you get sentenced on it, they're going to break you off and you're going to get a decade. So the system is stacked to make people plead guilty. But Derek Callella, in my humble opinion, everything on there is open until you get way deep into the final pages of his paperwork. And at that point, it says further information is going to be, the guy just, because he's got a 5K1, to assume that it's this, if it were this, he wouldn't be out of jail. The judge would have said, look, you just pled guilty. We're going to remand you right now. Normally, when you change your plea to guilty, they can lock you up. And the judge could have said, right, you've already pled guilty. I'm going to keep you locked up for the next little bit until we get through all of the paperwork and everything else. You're not free to leave. It happens all the time. If they were trying to use this dude in the biggest court case in America, right, I have a feeling that he would be locked up right now. And he wouldn't be, they would just keep dragging their feet. In fact, this plea wouldn't have happened. They'd have put it off. They'd have filed some bullshit motions or they would have done whatever, but they definitely would not have let this dude walk out the front door to go to a rehab. They also wouldn't have let him bail himself out. For real. They wouldn't have given the guy bail. If there was a deal to be cut, I promise you he did it that first day. Because he walked in that first day and said, I did it. Like, this isn't a guy that holds his mud. And there's a reason for that tonight. Hey, David Booley, good to see you. Christy, how are you? The interview room explains this same way. Well, that's a cool damn thing to hear. I wish, their stuff they go on for a very long period of time, and which is awesome. But to be honest, man, like I'll read transcripts sometimes of their shows, but I haven't done it in a long time. It's just so much. And I watched a couple of really short ones and some from some pretty famous people who are saying, this is sealed because he cut a deal on this case. That is absolutely preposterous to say. Doesn't mean I'm right, but it makes way more sense from a convict standpoint. From this dude, they're gonna bury that 5K1 shit as deep in that paperwork as they can, because that's not something that looks good on paperwork. I would imagine they're pretty adept at taking deals and stringing them on till the very end. Look at the Epstein case in Florida, right? The Epstein case in Florida, that's literally how his documents started off, right? The feds were going, we're not prosecuting this dude. He's got a deal. He gave substantial assistance to the United States government, and here's the deal he's getting. And they gave a sex offender who was in there for I don't know how many underage girls, right, as a big, old, grown-ass man. But that's the deal that they gave him. And I've done a show on this before, and I put it up. And it's literally how the paperwork starts. The paperwork for Derek Callella talks about what case he's on right now. And as you get deeper into there, they don't even say, hey, this is a 5K1 or, hey, he cut a deal. but they say the further documents will be sealed. I doubt that they were just going to say, well, we'll blow off that $400,000 you scammed the United States of America for, right? He's already got a fraud charge. This would have been, as they like to say in court, the dude's got priors, right? He's got priors. If you're a bank robber, you don't want to get caught for it twice. Anything. Because if you have priors, the federal government ups the hell out of the amount of time you're looking at. So if he was facing another fraud charge and considerably bigger than that little credit card scam thing he did over a decade ago. And by the way, that's important because over a decade ago, and you start dropping down the amount of points that they can give you for particular crimes, right? So let's say, what about protective custody? Protective custody is not normally done anymore for cases on the street. And what I mean by that is, let me rephrase that. They don't have a great track record of babysitting people on the street. There have been some really horrific cases of people that jumped out of windows and had all kinds of other problems, usually tied to the Italians in the Northeast. But people used to get whacked. It's so much easier to leave a guy in jail and just stretch it out, right? He's got a court case. You just keep saying, well, you know what? The public defender, or if he's got a legit attorney, something has come up that I cannot pull that off. Wow, Michael, that is literally the most messed up theory I've heard on this case ever. But you know what? It's yeah. So, I mean, protective custody could be done, but I think it would make a lot more sense to lock his ass up and just make it look like he's in there fighting a case, because you can take a person and put him into a cell all by his onesies, right? And take him out to wreck all alone, and make sure that no one has a shot of getting at him in any way, shape, or form. That is the safest way you could possibly protect somebody that is about to bust out some information in the largest court case ever, right? And if he had information like this is the person that set this up, trust and believe he wouldn't be dealing with any of this. He'd be going home with a bag of weed, but someone would already be arrested. They don't bet on it. They take your information, and your information needs to pay off, right? Third Eye Open says, well, I guess that's one theory. Yes, I guess that is one theory, isn't it? Chicago Jane, are you taking off, or are you laughing at the other person? Hey, Cindy, how are you? I'm glad that you're here. 141 likes and 368 of you in the chat. Obviously, you don't like me. Do me a favor, smack that like button. It pisses off the algorithm. So there's another piece of information, and we'll do some Q&A here in a little bit, and you can ask any question you want. I wonder if they checked Tomas's family in Italy, if they were over there at the time. Were they over there at the time? I would imagine if they're chasing down every lead on the family, I would imagine that they were doing things along those lines. I would be very surprised if they didn't. And if this were Nanos is the world's biggest jackass. If, however, it had been, without the FBI, I'd be nervous. But Debbie Love and Life, you crossed my mind today because I walked by where you're going to be living. And I elbowed Johnny Scoville and said, that, my friend, is where Debbie Love and Life will be living. You know what? For always, forever, for life, I do feel a hell of a lot better. And I feel blessed to still be here, especially that first couple of weeks when I was doing really horrific out there. If that woman weren't here, honest to God, I had some really rugged times. And Reese was Nurse Quibbs. The best nurse ever. I mean, maybe not as brushed up on medical stuff, but damn, what a nurse. So, yeah, Sheriff Nonads, well played. So here's the deal. It has been reported, and this came out from Harvey Levin at TMZ. You can take that any way you want. There are people that don't believe anything that Harvey Levin says anymore. I think Harvey Levin's probably got more more resources to get information. He's got more people pumping him information. But without a shadow of a doubt, he's doing a great job. Whether or not every one of the stories is absolutely true, one of the great things about being a journalist with a good, solid track record is if you wanted to make something up, you could. But one of the things that he said is, and he did it on his Two Angry Men podcast, but he said that he had somebody in the FBI that told him that there was a piece of evidence that had been planted by somebody in the press because they wanted the ability to keep this story going and sort of running with it. Now, saying it and it being true are two completely different things. And I think anybody that spends any time on the internet probably has a pretty good idea that that's true, right? I saw it online. It can't be wrong. But Harvey says that this is a reality. And then they sat around and they speculated on who might they be talking about, what person in the press. And this is not a theory. This is a fact. And then you can make a theory about it if you'd like. The fact is, one of the gloves was found by a reporter. So that's got to make you question whether or not that's who the FBI, if the FBI actually said this, is talking about. If that's the case, I would imagine this cat would have been prosecuted, though, right? Like that just makes sense. If you know for a fact that they planted evidence, that's a big crime. That's not cool. But you know what? It does bring up a very interesting question. How far will the people that work for clicks go to keep not only the case relevant, but holy shit themselves relevant, right? And I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but it was a cat, I believe, from the New York, either the Times or the Post, but one of the New York newspapers just happened to be the people that came across the glove. I never, and if you watch the boat, you know this, I never put credence into any of those gloves. Because again, I don't do this like other people do it. I'm not playing detective. I couldn't possibly play detective. However, I can look at this from the other side of the equation. And a criminal goes, like we've seen the guy dressed on the doorstep. He's got gloves on. He's wearing a balaclava. He's got a coat pulled all the way up to here. They're not showing any skin anywhere. They're going really out of their way to try to keep the transfer of DNA or anything else and their own image and make it, this is a professional kind of a setup, whether you think how he carries his pistol or him using what looked like to me. I don't think he was trying to cover the lens. I think he was taking the stick and trying to get behind the camera to pry it off. And I say that not sort of out of my ass, but when back in the early days of this case, when we were first looking at this, when they showed where the Ring doorbell camera should have been, not Ring, but the other one, you know what I'm talking about. But jammed into that was what looked like a stick. And there were also pieces of leaf. So that's kind of what I always thought. But anyway, the point being, you're going to do that. Be that careful. And driving down the street, you're going to pull your gloves off and throw them out the window. I mean, that was what I said the first day. There's no way this comes back to the criminal. No way. If you're spending that much time thinking about gloves, then you're not throwing them off within 10 miles, 20 miles, 40 miles of where you just did that. You're going to incinerate them. You're going to do something. You're either conscious of DNA and of leaving fingerprints and things of that nature, or you are not. And if you are, you're certainly not flinging gloves out the freaking window of a car after you just did a kidnapping. It just doesn't make any sense. And here's the thing. If Harvey's telling the truth, and I'm not saying that he's not, but if he's telling the truth, then this person needs to be prosecuted. This isn't just a matter of, hey, look, we kept it in the press. That's actually not such a bad thing. No. What did they say they dropped? $8,000 a glove, right? Wasn't it $8,000 a glove? Even if it's $4,000 a glove. How much money did they spend on these stupid freaking gloves? And how long did it take the trajectory of this case in a direction that it shouldn't have gone in? Because you start finding gloves nearby and you believe enough to send the thing down to whatever the lab you're using, because you won't use Quantico for F's sake, because you hate the FBI, right? because they know they're on to you. They know you're a scam artist, right? For real, they know you're a scam artist. So he doesn't want to have anything to do with the FBI. Nanos is a piece of shit. I mean, he is. And he has butchered this case in ways that you can't imagine. Now he's talking again. He needs to keep his mouth shut because he sounds like an idiot. And there is so much confusion within this case about these stupid letters. And once again, this has been my stance. And I will happily eat it when I'm wrong. I'll come on and say, yeah, you know what? Boy, I butchered that one. No one's right all the time. At true crime, a lot of times you're not going to be right. It's just kind of how it goes. I weigh in and tell you what I think. And every crime, like it or not, has a sort of a playbook. And if you're a bank robber, right? People go in, hello, Anita Card. 1985, glad you're here. Vince, what's up? Michael, good to see you. A bank robber walks in, right? Says, I want the money, hands a note. There's a lot of different ways that people say you're supposed to do it. But you kind of have a playbook in your head, right? You're going to go in and say, don't hit any buttons, right? You've seen it in movies. And you sort of know what the playbook is. The playbook for people that kidnap other people is you don't want people calling the FBI. You don't want people calling the cops. Ideally, if you do it perfectly, when the loved one comes over because they can't get them on the phone, on the bed is a piece of paper or some kind of a note that says, don't call the FBI, don't call the police, call me. This isn't about hurting anyone. This is about getting paid, right? That's how it works. It doesn't make a shitload of sense that days after this happened, these letters start showing up. And don't send them to the family, for God's sakes, right? Because, again, we're trying to keep law enforcement, press, things like that. No, these kidnappers are smart enough to send this to 3 different stations on television, one of which is Harvey Levin. That still blows my mind, Tommy. All these gloves found from the police for littering. Yeah. Littering to a great deal. And some of it could just be that these people have absolutely no idea how to run an investigation. Plain and simple. You've got people out there walking around and looking, and they're all wearing gloves because in a perfect world, you're not going to contaminate the crime scene. But when people go out to do stuff like this, you can't leave a soda can, right, or a water bottle. You can't leave gloves. You can't leave a freaking cigarette butt. You can't be spitting your chewing tobacco on the ground because all of these things are going to muck up and destroy a crime scene. And there's reason to believe that some of these gloves were left behind. Hello. Oops, sorry. I thought that was someone else. I've already welcomed that person. But I thought I saw Rue's name for whatever reason. I'm slipping. That's what it is, man. I'm slipping. So some of these were thrown out the window. We know that one of them came from a chef that works at a restaurant nearby. So on the way home, this guy apparently flings his gloves out the window. And you can buy a really decent used car in the country that I live in for how much money they blew just on that guy's gloves. It's embarrassing. Ain't Todd, how are you? I thank you for saying that. I feel well, man. And Ann from Massachusetts kind of nails this, right? There has been so much BS with this case. I feel so bad for Savannah watching the Keystone cops tripping over their own feet. And worse, right? They're tripping over their own feet, but they're going out to the world. Hey, Miss Weedy Poo. They're going out to the world and projecting all this stupidity, right? Tell us stuff that we shouldn't know and blow off, perfect example. We have a device that can track the pacemaker on Nancy Guthrie. Why in the name of God would you tell the world that? Why? Why is that released to the press? That makes no sense, right? You got to believe that the people that did this, right, are watching every single thing you're doing. You think telling them that you can track that's a good idea? I rule. How are you? Glad you're here. Do I think it was a kidnap for ransom or something else? I think rocks in a box. And that this is the question, isn't it? Is this not the entire thing? Like, this is the question. We'd like to know, obviously, who did it. But the real question is it a kidnap for ransom or something else? My opinion on this is that it was designed to be a kidnap for ransom, and she didn't survive the first night. That would be my opinion on this matter. Because if you're going to kill somebody, you don't take them with you. Kind of defeats the purpose of that whole sneaking in there, killing people and leaving, right? If you leave the body there, then robbery, homicide, Pima County is going to take this case. It's not going to be a federal case. It's not a federal offense to you shoot someone in the head and kill them. That's a state crime. In order for that to be a federal crime, you would have had to cross state lines with the body or cross state lines for the killing, but you would have to make it into a federal offense. That would have been a state offense. And sadly, I spent time in federal prison. I knew people who were contract killers. You would never take a body. They don't use the big caliber guns like you see in movies, and the heads they go in with a 22 and they put one or two in the back of the person's head, and then they walk out of the place, right? They're not leaving DNA behind. They're doing it with a revolver so that there are no shells that get ejected or anything like that. They're very businesslike. And if this was an elimination hit, there's no reason to take the body with you. And people say, well, as a cover-up, doesn't cover up anything. It brings in the press. It brings in the FBI. It brings in a whole level of crap that a hitman doesn't need. So to me, nothing makes more sense than this being someone trying to grab somebody, right, for the purpose of making it into a ransom. And unfortunately, it didn't work out because this is an octogenarian, right? This is a woman in her 80s who has a pacemaker. I don't have a pacemaker, but I've recently had some heart trouble, right? It's one of the reasons I didn't go live last night. I have a heart that is going to need some work, and I take 7 prescriptions. And if I had the pacemaker, I'd be taking more than that. She didn't have her prescriptions. Nothing about this said that these people were wanting her long term, right? They were going to have this thing wrapped up and done in no time. And you could even play that. You could have taken 2 days worth of the pills and left the bottles to say, boy, you better get on this, right? She hasn't got her medication. All of those things kind of make sense from a criminal standpoint. And then you accidentally kill the woman because, as if you listen to the things that people say, there were days, said Savannah, when she could walk out to the mailbox, right? Not every day. She also said that she's in constant pain if she doesn't have her medication. That's not heart medication. That's pain medication. And I don't know if you've ever kicked dope, but sadly, I've done it a gazillion times, right? I was a heroin addict for about 3 decades. And kicking, I don't think I could do it today at my age. Fortunately, I haven't done it in over 11 years. But I can't imagine being an octogenarian, being in your 80s, 84, I believe, and having to kick an opiate for the first time at the same time as being kidnapped. But like so many people have said here today, I don't believe that she got through the first night either. I think that unfortunately she died on the way out. Do you think YouTubers' theories teaching the perps how to play the game? No, I don't. Because to be really honest with you, most YouTubers' theories are absolute horseshit. I mean, this is a form of entertainment, and we can get together and we can talk, but I'll use the Diddy case. I'm not even going to beat on anybody for this, but I'll use the Diddy trial. I was super wrapped up in that, right? Like you wouldn't believe. And doing so much content on it, it was insane. I had shows I did on other people's channels. It was just all Diddy all the time. And I remember in the very beginning doing shows with people, and their story was X, Y, Z. And the next time you did a story with them, it started at M and went to Z. And by the last time I'm doing shows with them, they're making up friggin' letters of the alphabet that don't exist, right? For real. They got a 77 letter alphabet. And the stories are getting so bizarre and so out of hand that if you've been here any length of time, you'll remember this. But there were Starbucks coffee shops inside tunnels underneath Diddy's house so that they could provide coffee and refreshment for all of those pedophiles, that were hunting kids and buying them from Diddy. I'm not making this shit up. So YouTubers get out of control, and the question and the theories and all of that stuff, the longer this case goes on, the more bizarre it's going to get. But I don't think the average perp is looking at any of this stuff that people say, and they're probably laughing at what I say, right? But I go at this from the side of the person that did this, right? That's kind of how I didn't spend enough time on the right team. Now I am, but I certainly know how most how most criminals in the life think. Is it possible that Annie and or Neckbeard have something on Savannah? Hence the silence. I think that's all. Everything is a possibility at this point, right, Todd? I mean, for real. But hey, Heather Rhodes, it's kind of a tough situation, isn't it? I mean, even if you're working with the feds, and imagine the feds sitting you down and going, Savannah, how are you? Right now, we really have your sister and your brother-in-law under surveillance. And if they're on to you, if they think that, this is going to screw up what we're doing because we're trying to get them to lower their guard. We don't want them to lawyer up, whatever the theory is, right? I mean, the excuse is. But she just might be in a situation where she literally does not have any choice. I love it when it does that. Where there's no choice whatsoever. This is kind of what you're saddled with, right? You're going to have to deal with this. It's a shit sandwich, isn't it? Like, that would be one of the most ridiculous things in the world to have to endure. But I don't know. I'm not saying that your theory or my theory is better than the other, because at this point, there's so little that we know about this. There really is so little that we know about this, especially with all of the misinformation and the disinformation. The 9 seconds, there was a 9-second phone call. And that will just be the end all and be all of everything. And for a lot of people who are already going down the conspiracy rabbit hole on this, that is when he and Tommaso cut a deal or talked specifically about exactly what's going on. And I don't know. I don't buy that. You know what I mean? Do you know how many times a week I accidentally call my wife? Right? And the phone will be on for like a minute or 10 seconds or 20 before I can hear her yelling or she hangs up and calls me back. I do it all the time. It could be anything. He could have called and bailed out. 9 seconds? I mean, you can get a lot said in 9 seconds, right? Hold on a second. We're at 42:20. You can get an awful lot done in 9 seconds. You can articulate an awful lot of stuff, and you could probably go back and forth, right? So that both people can get a lot in and still hang up. That was 9 seconds. You get a lot done, right? But I'm not sure that I buy it. I don't see how any of this, if he had anything that he could cut a deal with about Tommaso would be in handcuffs. You understand? You don't need anything else. If they were in cahoots together, right, then Derek Callella turns him in right then, and he's in handcuffs before the end of the day. Because you got a guy that says, this is what he did, there's your case, man. Yeah, our conversation was about this. I wasn't there when it happened. I was in California. But apparently when they went to kidnap her, she got whacked. And that's what I was talking about. Whatever the hell he had, right, I assure you, he would be locked up. I don't think they'd be letting him float around. And there would be no reason that Tommaso would be walking the street. If there was anything like that they could deal on, Tommaso would already be in handcuffs. You understand? This guy couldn't have enough dirt to bury anybody and not have that person already in handcuffs. You don't, when this happens, you proffer and you do any of this, it's a deal between you and the United States of America. And there's a contract. Here's what you're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. And I talked about this when we were talking about Keefe D and the case that's coming up on Tupac. The Tupac murder. Not unaliving. Cat was murdered, right? But we were talking about his proffer deal. How is it that he had a deal for immunity, but now they're prosecuting him? Because he broke the contract. He wrote a book. He went out and did all those things. Think about it in these terms. You have a deal, and you hand him a piece of paper, and you say, now this piece of paper doesn't exist. We're going to learn everything off of it, but we can never use anything off of this paper to get you. You write a book, they're not taking anything off that paper. Your dumbass just gave them 380 pages of paper that they can now use to prosecute you. Because, right, but for you writing that book, they don't know the stuff, they can't prosecute you. But once you put that out there, you're protected from what you said that day. But if you repeat everything you said that day on radio shows and on TV shows, you don't get a pass. Because now they would have found this stuff just from you being an idiot. It doesn't give you a right to go brag about your crimes. It's a completely different deal. I'm surprised this case is still garnering as much interest online. It feels like nothing new has come out in months. I agree with you, Barbara Waite. I really do. However, I think that this is raw emotion for a lot of people, and it's a pretty decent soap opera, isn't it? I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick, but as far as these cases go, you got Nanos, who's an absolute jackass, and it seems to have tried to sabotage this case from Jump Street. Right? He almost seems like he's gone out of his way to not do anything that is logical. You got people coming in saying, we want to search. Nah, we don't want to do that. Why in God's name would you ever turn that down? You've got the Federal Bureau of Investigation saying, send us everything you got. We'll send a plane right now, and we can have the DNA tested in a day. By the way, the second we're done testing it, we will put it into the CODIS system. Instead, Nanos goes, nah, I'll send it to this lab in Florida. And when they get done doing it in 2 or 3 weeks, they can send the results to us. We'll send it to you. You can upload it into your system, and then we'll do CODIS. Does that make any sense to anybody? No, but the guy's got a stiffy for the FBI, right? The guy hates the feds. The sheriff in Aiken, South Carolina, handling the case of the little girl whose parents murdered her, is the type of sheriff they need in Nancy's case. He called the FBI with it. Yeah, that's exactly a fact. And there's another one. Allie, when I first started, I know what you're talking about. But when I first started reading it, I thought there's one in Colorado, and I was confusing the two. But there's a sheriff in Colorado that did the same thing. He was like, he showed up on the scene and went, oh, no, this is a Fed thing. And I mean, just in a matter of hours, 8 hours, that's it. Call him in. The sheriff is under investigation for gambling on the job, allegedly. Technically, he gambled on the job allegedly in when he worked in El Paso. So he's not under investigation for that now. He's under investigation for falsifying his resume and leaving out things like being punished for the gambling, being punished for insubordination, or being punished for not showing up, or taking your flashlight and beating the piss out of a guy that's already in custody to the point where he's literally needs to go to the hospital and is in very bad shape. Just take your mag light out and beat the crap out of a guy in custody, because that is something that is on there, right? That is literally on his file. Let's see what we got here. I walk along the avenue. Little flock of seagulls. Anybody? Bueller. There we go. I think a lot of people connect to this case because lots of us have elderly parents. It's a worst nightmare situation. You know what, Rocks? It's a hell of a comment because it's a stone cold fact. And even those whose parents are still really young, because those people exist, not us. Kathy, how are you? But everybody's got grandparents. Everybody's got parents. And as we start aging through all of that, it is a nightmare scenario. You're absolutely spot on. This is one of the nastiest things in the entire world. Yeah, here's the thing. Primitive lifeways. I get it. I really do. What are good cops? I'm serious. Across this country, they run around like thugs. I think that we amplify anything that is questionable, and we shove it down people's throats on a 10-minute cycle for 4 days in a row on most major media. And then the opinion people come in. We used to look at facts and things like that. And I am a guy that has got a shitload of felonies and has been to prison for a really long time. And I've actually got I have a newfound respect for law enforcement. And the truth of the matter is, and I've said this a million times, the problem is one effed up cop not only can mess up a department, but in the world that we live in today, can mess up the reputation of cops for 1,000 miles in every direction. And I think that the vast majority of cops go out and do their job with a shitload of integrity. I think that they do everything they can to actually protect and serve. But if 1% suck, then that's all we're going to see. You don't see an awful lot of stuff online of, hey, watch how well this cop did. Watch what a great job he did of going in and defusing a married couple fighting that it literally looked like somebody was going to get knocked off. But he went in there, he settled this down, or she went in there and she settled this down. That's kind of not what they highlight. And that's the nature of the beast. My wife talks about this a lot. You read reviews of restaurants, and for every good one, there'll be 40 bad ones. Even if it's got a 5-star rating, because people will hit the 5-star, but they're not going to leave a comment unless they're pissed off, right? And then they're not just going to leave a comment, but they'll tell 4 or 5 friends about it. It's kind of the number one rule of marketing, right? If you're a douchebag, people will tell 12 people about it. If you're a really great guy, they might tell 1, or they may just not even do anything. It's just kind of how it works. But they're out there. But I understand what you're saying. Believe me, I do. I've had the crap kicked out of me by a few of them. This guy also was on other streamers' channels. They said he had a relative was shot after he went into the feds with info. Yeah, if I struggle with a lot of the stuff. I mean, it really is, unfortunately, an epic shit show. We've gotten to the point now where this pays. This is a subject matter that pays the bills. And there are people that are going to keep this in the light. If what Harvey Levin is suggesting is true, it's a great indication of what this case means. There are professional journalists out there ready to go, I'll just plant some shit if I can't get a good story. What does that tell you? Right? This kind of stuff really pays. Saw a deputy on a video today that had to arrest a father for DUI, but had his minister come pick up the mother and child to give them a place for her to sober up. It was amazing. I've seen some incredible stuff from cops. And I'll tell you something else. I've never met anybody from the U.S. Marshals that wasn't cooler than the other side of your pillow. I mean, the way that they treat people that have been arrested or whatever, they showed up and a guy said to me, you know what? Everybody's a human being. You made some very serious mistakes. Now you're going to pay for them. You don't need any more crap from me. He's like, I'll treat you like a friend until we get where we're going. And I ended up at one point going into a hospital with, anyway, I went into the hospital, had a mini stroke. And they had to guard me for about 4 days. And they were the coolest people in the entire world. They really were. Do you know what moving to an upscale senior community with advancing care costs $20,000 for services alone? Good Lord in heaven, Kathy. Can that be true? Who the hell has that kind of money? I mean, us YouTubers who are just killing it. But the rest of the world? I'm kidding, people. Law on both sides, the good guys and the bad guys. Crime is a huge moneymaker. It absolutely is a huge moneymaker. Sadly, it really is. And the incarceration of people is also a huge booming business. So I would like to, put a C, a couple of C's to let me know you got a comment. Put a couple of Q's to let me know you got a question. And for the love of God, please hit that like button right now. If you've not hit subscribe, do so and hit the bell for notification. When I go live, you'll know about it, right? So I am of the belief that that Derek Callella didn't cut any kind of a deal. And as far as the planted evidence goes, if it's true, it's the most disturbing thing I've heard on this case. It's enough to let you realize that we don't have a whole lot of hope of this thing getting solved. If by some chance that's true, this is terrifying. It really is. This case is so far beyond anything. Anything that even seems reasonable in true crime, right? What the hell is your cat doing? I don't know. Annoying animal. I think she's in the kitchen. So I want to know what you think. Do you think Derek Callella actually cut a deal somehow for the case that he's currently on? I'm not mad at you if you do. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. It really doesn't. I've seen plenty of cases where they really need a witness. They incarcerate them. It's the easiest freaking way in the world to keep a witness safe until a trial. And then the people that he puts away, he doesn't have to do time or hang out with any of them. It's very, very simple to protect somebody that way. To release him and let him walk out doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think he definitely provided substantial assistance to the United States of America, but I don't think it had anything to do with the Nancy Guthrie case because no one has been friggin' arrested. And you don't cut a guy a sweetheart deal if his information doesn't pan out. If his information doesn't pan out, he ends up going to trial or pleading guilty or whatever. He's got no shot. It has to pan out. If it panned out, somebody would already be arrested. You follow me? Does that make any sense to anybody? Hey, DJS says, happy belated birthday, Johnny.
Who?
DJS. Mesaw Smokes, good to see you. How are you? Yeah, I'll tell you what, this is actually going to, that's going to suck. If you have any idea what it's like to do federal probation, 5 years of probation on the feds for a guy that couldn't stay sober long enough to go to court and not have it be in his system, he's screwed. I'm telling you, the federal system doesn't screw around with how they do drug testing at all. They do the color system. You got to get up every day. You got to make a phone call. And they'll say the colors of the day are white, red, blue, pink. If you're one of those colors, you got to get down there by 5 o'clock and you got to take a leak. And you can't drink unbelievable amounts of water because they test for the specific gravity, how many solids are in your urine. They use a little computer deal with a pipette. They test for 32 different drugs or metabolites from drugs. So it's damn near impossible to beat it. And, people use Whizinators. You can't. You got to take your pants down to your knees or your ankles. It's a very intrusive. Ruby, thank you for saying hi. It is a very intrusive system. It's tough. It seems to me he probably cut some kind of deal and we'll find out the details in good time. Well, we won't. And that's what's going to piss people off. And unfortunately, it absolutely fuels beyond belief conspiracy theories rather. But here's the problem. If he cut a deal on the bigger of the two cases, you understand? What he's being charged with here is harassing somebody by cell phone. He's not being charged with fraud or attempted fraud or any such thing. He is literally just being charged for reaching out and harassing somebody through an electronic device. Kind of a slap on the wrist, kind of a crime. But he's still facing stealing $400,000 from the United States of America in a big-ass fraud case, right? If I had to guess, that's where he cut a deal. Not on the smaller case to get a 5-month, 5-year probation. I don't think he would get anything, and there would already be somebody locked up. You don't get information that is good enough to give somebody a 5-year probation deal and then not arrest people. Is a urine test as accurate as a follicle testing? Well, here's the deal. It's very, very quick, right? It takes about 3 minutes for that test. If anything comes up inconclusive, or if it comes up conclusive, in other words, if it says you're clean, you're good. If it says we're not sure, that gets sent off for the ultimate test, which is the gas chromatograph or whatever they call it, where they take a little bit of that urine and they flash that stuff and it steams or smokes up. They capture that smoke and they have a high-tech machine that can test it, and you get parts per million. How much weed have you got in your system? How much heroin have you got in your system? And it will test for just about anything on earth. That's kind of the gold standard. But they use the 32-panel cup as a screening method. It's a hell of a lot cheaper than the follicle. The follicle goes back for a really long time. You can tell if somebody was doing meth a year ago or 2 years ago by doing hair follicle tests, which, if that's what you're trying to prove, that's a great test. But it's expensive, and for the purpose of having to do them constantly, up to 2 a week for a couple of years in the feds, they just go with a 32-panel cup. And anytime there is any doubt, it gets sent off for a gas chromatograph. Yeah, the follicle is really effective if you're trying to test, if you're trying to say, I know for a fact 4 years ago he was doing heroin. That's when the hair follicle thing starts to come in. He punks the FBI on this case, and judge sets precedent with probation. Once again, he is looking at multiple cases. And for all we know, he just buried everybody on that other case but himself. Do you understand? And he's not setting a precedent, right? I mean, what I mean by that is a precedent is something that is now etched in stone. This guy decided to cut a deal with him. And if I had to go out on a limb, I would say that either it was substantial government assistance or no, it would have to be, right? It literally had to be that he did a hell of a lot. And I would imagine he did it on the other case because no one has been arrested on this one. But here's the other thing. It's no money was exchanged, right? There was no payoff. It was by most accounts, one phone call, right? I'm sorry, text message. This was not even a great attempt. This was something that a good attorney is going to go to court and go, this isn't fraud, it's stupidity. And it is. And he didn't hold back. The day they brought him in, he confessed to it. This is the kind of guy that's going to get this kind of a sentence. Granted, he's been to prison, but it was so long ago that the way the system works, points drop off some. So if you were to get caught within 2 years of your last prison rip, it's like a 5-point enhancement or some shit, 3-point enhancement. It's there's a lot of different ways you can get enhanced on different things, but he stayed out of trouble for the most part until he started doing that embezzling shit, and he was under investigation at the time of the Nancy Guthrie thing, which again makes you wonder if this dude knew that he was under investigation and trust and believe he knew he was under investigation. It takes a pretty massive amount of balls to do what he did. It's a sign of desperation. I would imagine he was trying to come up with enough money to pay back what he just stole so that he could try to cut some kind of a deal or whatever, because his second fraud case over $400,000, it could get ugly. Could he have been sentenced to rehab for violation of his bond on the other case, but they just ordered him to DNA fact on this case instead of filing a revocation on his other federal case? Well, his other federal case, as far as I understand, is not satisfied yet. He's still in the process of getting that put together, which is why this stinks to me, like without a shadow of a doubt. That's where the substantial government assistance would have been provided, because nobody has been arrested in the Nancy Guthrie case. If you gave information and they chased it down and it was legit, yeah, you're going to get you a hell of a deal. And someone's getting arrested. They're not going to wait, right? You've got information that is, pertinent to this case. Someone's under arrest. There's just no two ways about it. He's not going to give him information like, ooh, maybe it's this guy. This is why it's done in a proffer. You send what you got. And in the feds, they don't say, if you tell us everything that you want to tell us about this, I can get you a 5-year sentence. That's the movies. In the feds, you're going to give them everything that you can give them. This is it. I can give you all this. And they go, okay, we'll use it. And when it comes to sentencing, we'll tell the judge that you were helpful. I'm not joking, right? Unless you're Salvatore Gravano, and I'm not busting on him. I'm a fan of Sammy the Bull, but Sammy the Bull had, they wanted John Gotti bad enough that they cut the deal and he knew what he was getting ahead of time. That's not normally how it happens. But this is a huge case, people. You cannot underestimate. The president of the United States has commented on this case. The head of the FBI talks about this case on a regular basis. This is constantly in the forefront of everything having to do with true crime. This is a massive case, not just in the United States, but all over the world. And I think in the beginning, it was because this was Savannah Guthrie's mother. Now it's far beyond that. Now it's, for true crime aficionados, this is a whodunit. And we don't have a massive cast of characters that we can blame this on, right? There's kind of a limited cast of characters. It's one of the reasons that from day one, I have said, I like the son-in-law for this case. If there were a lot more people involved in this, maybe I would have a different opinion. But from the people, hey, Alabama, but if the people that, of the people that are involved, I've no doubt that the best candidate is Neckbeard. Could he have? Yes. So to the best of my knowledge, that case is not yet worked out. I still believe that Tommaso walked Nancy in the house, never left, allegedly. That's a possibility. But Hey, good to see you, Rip. I think it would be crazy to do it yourself. I like Tommaso for this, but I don't think personally he'd have done it. Right? This is the kind of thing that isn't hard to sell to a bunch of criminals. If you say it's going to be 24 hours or 48 hours tops, we're looking at a 5 million payout or a 4 million payout. We're going to get it in Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. Right? I think it would be easy to sell. Charlie Kirk, most important case. I will be covering the Charlie Kirk case. I will not be covering all of the prelims, but I absolutely will go gavel to gavel when they start the trial. And I did a show on it the other night. I would love for everybody to come in with an open mind and see what the evidence is. Right? That's all that I could hope for. Come in there like you're a juror. I know a lot of people have already made up their mind, and there are people that think that the Jews are responsible. There are people that think that he was whacked by his own people. We don't have any idea what happened. We don't have any idea what the evidence they got against this dude is, right? So I say keep an open mind. Let's see what happened. The cast of characters points in one direction for me. Yeah, I feel the exact same way. You know what? Cindy G makes a pretty solid point, man, right? The 2:30 scare would not have happened if he stayed. Yeah, I mean, I guess he could have been in there hiding until then, but yeah, I don't know. And why stay there that long? Were you waiting for her to fall asleep? I guess if he was going to kidnap her, but kidnappers, usually you want to do everything you can to not know the person you're kidnapping, because then you pretty much got to whack them. And, you could say, well, you put on a balaclava. Yeah, but if I saw my brother, or if I saw Reese, or if I saw anybody that I just really know, you could put him in a Michelin Man suit. I'm going to recognize the walk. Like my wife's, I promise you, I could pick Reese out walking from 5,000 people. It's a cute little thing she does with her feet. But
you and Bruce Willis.
Yeah, me. Johnny Scoville's funny as hell. What if they got in a money argument and something happened? Well, by all accounts, right, and even by some stuff that's legit that we can kind of point to. Do we know when the Tyler Robinson trial will begin, or is that they got to go through the preliminaries and all of that jazz first? Johnny Scoville chased down the fruit guy today. They could have gotten into a money argument, but I don't think it would have been a spontaneous kind of a thing. They were at Tommaso and Annie's house the night going into the morning that she disappeared, right? That's the last place anybody saw her. Allegedly, that's the last place anybody saw her, right? Before she was kidnapped, before she disappeared, whatever you want to call it. But that was at Annie and Tommaso's house. We know from the pacemaker information that hooked up to the Wi-Fi in her house, we know some stuff, right? There are things that we can extrapolate from that. And one of them is she didn't die at Annie and Tommaso's house, right? She came home. There was the 2:30 spike when she got freaked out. And then there was the period of time after that. Then she disconnects from the base. At that point, she's gone, right? But it would hook up to the base, and that Wi-Fi is like a thumbprint. So they know that she definitely made it home. But so if they got into a money argument, I would have assumed it would have happened at Annie and Tommaso's, but I could be wrong. It's definitely a possibility. Do we know when Tyler Robinson? Yeah, sorry. Wasn't sure if I had already got that one. Tommaso could have walked in the house, unlocked the back door for someone else. You know what? That to me kind of makes sense. Honestly. I mean, that to me would be, help her in, get her settled and walk out the back door. I think that would make sense to me. But I can't see him wanting to be there when the kidnapping went on. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Because she sure as hell knows her son-in-law, right? But, yeah, I don't think that's such a bad theory right there. After watching prelims, the boyfriend was much more messed up than Robinson. I watched that, and I agree. Don't kidnappers leave a note? Well, if they're good ones, they do, right? It was also on another channel that Nancy's cousin tried to borrow money for failed businesses 3 days before, and someone else said there was a charge on Nancy's card at 412 to 417. Union leader from Pennsylvania. I got to be honest with you, I wouldn't believe any of that. I wouldn't. A lot of stuff gets said on a lot of channels. That hasn't been reported anywhere because I promise you, every single press release, I follow this case. That's not out in public record. So if a YouTuber knows that, but the rest of the world doesn't, I'm going to cry bullshit. Or that it's a theory of this person's. I put my theories out. I like to make sure that I tell people it's a theory. I don't know what happened to this. I tell you how I view this, and I like to listen to my audience, which a lot of guys and gals don't do. I like your theories. I really do. I like your theories. This is an interesting question. I'm not sure, Todd. I'm not sure. I can't see doing that. I think your best bet has got to be to have a jury trial with the hope that you're going to get one or two real serious tinfoil hat people sitting in the because this is such a hardcore event, right? This really divided the country. And you got to realize that when they go through the voir dire process, they can ask questions of people, but it's not foolproof by any means. And people get on juries that should never be on juries. I think a great example, if you ever watched the documentary that was made by 50 Cent's team, if you watch that Diddy documentary, what is fascinating in that is, first of all, there's a lot in there that's fairly fascinating. Hold on one second. Is it possible that while Nancy was being dropped off, someone slipped in the garage? Yeah, that's a possibility, but you'd be stuck in there for we know that from the time she got dropped off to when the heart spiked, I guess someone could sit and lay in wait that long. But if they did, yeah, it's a possibility. It is definitely a possibility. I think I like the idea of Neckbeard opening the back door on the way out. I think that's a decent possibility. I think if Annie and hubby FBI would have had them by now, too many agents and specialists in that house for them to have missed stuff for this long. That's actually, it's a very solid point. You would think that they would already have them. Now, if you're not the one that showed up there, though, if you hired people, I could see this dragging on. There's a case that I watched, I think 2 days ago, and it took 10 years. I saw another case it was 1983, and they're just solving this thing now. A lot of times they know who did it from Jump Street. They know who did it from day one, but they cannot get enough to prove it. It's not enough to know that they did it. You have to be able to prove without beyond a reasonable doubt in front of a group of 12 people that this is the case. So I'm sorry, back to the 50 Cent documentary. There was a woman on that jury, on the Diddy jury, that literally looked like she was having fanned. She was such a fanatic for Sean Combs that she never should have been on that jury. There is just no way in hell that she ever should have been on that jury. But unfortunately, people get on that way. And the Tyler Robinson case is polarizing. There are people out there that hated Charlie Kirk so badly that they would happily see this guy found not guilty on general principle because of what a scumbag they think he is. I think it's going to be a challenge to find a jury where, nobody hasn't heard of it, right? That's sometimes you can pull that off through voir dire. You can literally find people that didn't that don't know anything about it. The whole world watched him get shot. The whole world talked about it for weeks. There were candlelight vigils. There were things all over the country and people protesting one way or the other, people getting fired for things they said. This is huge. This is a massive, massive case. And I think it's going to be a circus, unfortunately. But I would just hope that everybody keeps an open mind, right? I know I've gotten a lot of comments from a lot of people that already know exactly what happened. There has not been anything that is let out. Look at Corey Richards. A poor investigation yields no evidence. The PI did all the real work. Interesting, Guthrie, because you're right. And you know what? While we're at it, I kind of said the same thing about the David and Celeste thing, right? I really believe I did a show on it. And if I screw up, I always like to admit that I screwed up. I did a show just beating the piss out of the police, especially robbery homicide in Hollywood. And I highlighted all kinds of cases that were just butchered by them. And I really went pretty hard on them. And I said, we're almost at a year. And then I would say, this is where we're at. It's been this long, 6 months. I busted a lot of chops because they hadn't made a lot of progress in the DeForvid and Celeste case. The David who spells his name with a VD in it. And then the truth comes out and we start seeing the case that they've got, and it's friggin' bulletproof, right? They didn't just when they arrested this dude, the defense attorneys very often will try to steamroll you because they're like, they finally arrested him out of desperation. We don't want him to have enough time to put together a defense, so we're going to push for a speedy trial. This is such an unusual case with David and Celeste that they went in there and said, here's just a taste of what we're going to give you. And it jammed the brakes on all of the theatrics that was being put on by the defense, because ain't nobody but nobody doesn't believe that they've got this thing completely sewed up. I'm sorry, it really looks like it is. They got a lot of evidence. Did Savannah Guthrie leave before or after the feds took all of the pics in Annie and Tommaso's garage and took their car? If so, she may have seen the writing on the wall and left. No, I believe that when that car was seized, they were all living in someone else's home or an Airbnb or something, but the entire family at that point was living together. It doesn't mean Annie and Tommaso weren't out at the house from time to time, but the whole family was living in one domicile at that point. That's my understanding anyway. So I think that's what I've heard. You know what? I'm a fan of this. You don't have to automatically respect anyone, but you need to conduct yourself respectfully, and that includes toward the dead, in my opinion. You know what I would prefer to that, believe it or not? We're never going to be able to make anybody act like a human being. I would just like to see the world get to a point where if somebody wants to, to take shots at someone's dead relative or whatever, where you just go, yeah, I'm not going to have anything to do with you. Right? You're a disgusting human being, and I don't want to have anything to do with you. I think it's pretty basic, right? I mean, I don't care what your morality is. I don't care if you believe in Jesus or in Buddha or in nothing, right? Whatever it is, there's good and evil on this planet, or people who choose to do good and evil on this planet, right? So I don't have much time these days for people that want to do evil, people who have hate in their hearts. I just don't have time for it. I'm getting too freaking old. Right? It's not something I'm ready to deal with anymore. And there's this case is polarizing, right? There are a lot of really pissed off people about this case, and I get that. Makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, you've got, this happens in every case, but you got people that literally start going batshit crazy because they're convinced that their theory is correct. And the Brian Koberger case is a fascinating study on that. I mean, there were people that literally were tortured that had nothing to do with anything that happened. Kathy Shields says there are too many disgusting humans in this world. Boy, there's a lot of truth to that. However, I really wholeheartedly believe that we're making a comeback. I do, believe it or not. I really believe we're making a comeback. I think that humanity is starting to catch its snap. If my mom was 84, lived alone, and had health problems, I definitely have cameras and access to them if they alerted. I don't I have no desire whatsoever to blame anybody for anything. But if I had that kind of money, right? Savannah's super successful. If I had that kind of money, there's no chance in hell my mom would be alone. She just wouldn't. I would have people there making sure she was safe. But hindsight is 2020, and she grew up in that house, Savannah, and it was always safe. And the Catalina foothills, for the most part, are ridiculously safe. My sisters lived there for a really, really long time. I lived there for a while. My mom still lives there. I'm super familiar with. In fact, the last place I lived before I moved to Ecuador was the Catalina foothills. Love it, absolutely love it. But it's unfortunate that she remembers a much safer time. And people make a big deal about her brother saying, "Yeah, she got kidnapped because of you, Savannah." And again, I don't believe that's how it went down. I think she probably said, "Do you think this is because of me?" And he went, "Of course it is." Lexi Lynn says, Tommy, are you saying the percentage of assholes is reducing? I'm saying, no, I'm not. No, and that's not going to reduce. What I'm saying is those of us who are trying on a daily basis not to be assholes seem to have a lot less sense of humor these days. And I think that's a good thing. We sort of need to buck up. But Corn Dog, I happen to agree with you, man. And I'm not judging the family. I'm not. I'm just saying I would be very protective of. I'm very protective of my mother now. My mom's got two Italian dudes living with her in their 20s, and they're gangsters. Happy belated birthday, Tommy and Johnny. Thank you, Rhonda. That is very, very kind. I appreciate it. And all the people that were so kind for our birthdays, I really, really appreciate you. Got so many people that wished me a happy birthday. It was crazy. I almost felt special, like I wasn't, I wasn't working with a 50-50, hate versus love. My mom is 90. If she called an ambulance, the entire neighborhood would know. Nice try, Annie, calling the hospital. You know what? She's been there a really long time, right? She's been there a really long time. I wish we knew what was real, right? I really wish we knew what was real, because there's a decent chance that that everything we heard reported, because if Annie really let them think that she walked off, then that stinks. I mean, stinks so bad that you really got to start wondering. Lisa Palmer says, I'm kind of judging the family with the way they're acting. Tommy, do you think we are turning it around and more good people because of your time in Ecuador? Yeah, you know what? That could be the truth. I mean, I've not seen an argument since I got to Ecuador unless I was involved with it. Howdy, all suffering from food Oh, no, Gary Mackey. Do you know what's crazy? Johnny Scoville and I had a very long conversation today about food poisoning because both of us have been fairly blessed throughout our life. I've only had it a couple of times. But I will keep you in my thoughts and prayers. Can we get some ones for my man, Gary Mackey? Thank you, Gary. I'll keep you in my prayers. There's nothing worse than food poisoning, man. That's what I just told him. We were talking about that today. You're in my thoughts and prayers, brother. Really appreciate you. The older I get, the less patience I have for hate and stupidity. I wish I could deliver head slaps as needed. It's funny that you say that. I'm trying not to ever be that person again. Johnny and I went down because there was a guy that literally hit his girl. He was on a little moped, or scooter rather, and he hit his girl in front of us. Like, I was on the balcony. And I went, oh, hell no. And started heading for the door. And by the time I got there, Johnny was halfway down. But I didn't hit him in the head as badly as I wanted to. Did I? Tell the truth.
Nope.
I gave him a good shake, though. I got to hold up and give one of these.
Scared the crap out of him.
I absolutely scared the crap out of him because I grabbed him while he was still kind of moving on the bike. The bro is right here, actually.
I was very calm.
Come over here and say hi. Someone just said you're cool. I don't think they'd say it if it wasn't true.
Well, I'm definitely cool.
In fact, you see that? Where's the bro, Tommy? Right there.
TJ, good to see you. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for the birthday greetings. That was very cool of you.
It really was.
I appreciate it.
It's humbling.
Yeah, it was a good birthday.
See that? You got another one.
Hi, Brenda. Thank you so much. Kathy, Barbara,
And
Jody.
so look, now
Jody
that it's here,
Edwards is
just
awesome.
for the record, we don't look alike. It's ridiculous. It's
I'm more blown
ridiculous.
away when people say, "Are you guys brothers?"
No, I do. We do get that. People go, "Are you guys related?" And I always go, "Are you kidding me,
Thank you,
man?
Todd. Thank you, Sassy,
You think that there's a?"
the super handsome one.
I know she's talking about me.
Sheila.
I know she's talking about me. So
I'd stay here to say hi to everybody, but I'm going to irritate my baby brother. But thank you all so much.
no, you wouldn't have. The older I get for high fee applied, the young of the day suck. You know, it's not so much that the young of today suck. It is. I'm sorry. It really is. I hate to be that guy. I was going to try to be judicious, but no, I happen to agree with you. Happy birthday to all of you. Thank you so much. Orange Chicken says, Johnny, Tommy, and Reese. It is nice to be together, DJS. Thank you. Ali Sayers, my talk to text never does me right, especially on YouTube. Y'all look more like twins than my daughters who are really twins. I got some funny stories about that. There have been many times where people thought we were twins, and this really. And well, do you remember the woman at the Walmart? I was returning paintball guns that didn't work right, and this woman who was very sweet. She was a little frightening, but she was very sweet. Would you all recommend moving to your city? Yeah, I absolutely would. I love where I live. I've never loved any place more than where I live. It's just
every day a little bit more.
Yeah, it's very, very peaceful. There's not a lot of people judging one another. There's nobody in this country that has body issues, which is kind of amazing. What is my theory on the Nancy Guthrie case? It is simply this. It's that this was a money grab. They were looking for a very quick score. Grab the grandmother and put her aside, 24 hours, maybe 48 hours, you have her back and you've made a ton of money. And they killed her on the night that they took her away. And here's why. If it's a murder, you don't take the body with you. That's just downright stupid. Tommy, I want to thank you in the boat for your prayers for Cimbarella. She's doing better now. I love that. After a very expensive vet visit. You know what? It's you know why they're expensive? Because they're so worth it. When a vet fixes your cat or your dog, it is such a beautiful feeling. I love it. I'm so happy to hear that, man. I really am. They don't suck, but they are just so uptight. Lighten up, kids. Yeah, I mean, I was talking about this yesterday. One of my favorite comedy tapes of all time, and you can't listen to it anymore, Johnny Scoble. You just can't. But when Eddie Murphy first came out, right? Eddie Murphy was so funny. And half of that show, he was doing white voice and sort of clowning on whites for how we are. And it knocked me down. I used to laugh my ass off all the time, right? We used to laugh at ourselves. We used to be a lot better at that. We're not worth a shit at that anymore, which is a bummer. On the bright side, though, for real, I found a place here in town that sells bagels, right? Fresh bagels. And they're actually bagels. Like they're legitimate, no joke. These things are damn good. Light a match and stomp your foot. Bagels. I really couldn't be any happier. I'm sorry, but as a dude from the Northeast that knows a good bagel, I couldn't be any happier. Delirious was a great show, right?
They also you can enjoy a cup of coffee there.
And they make breakfast there. You can have an excellent cup of coffee, really good cup of coffee, and fresh juice every day. What was the juice today? Blackberry.
Yep.
Blackberry juice. Good Lord, man. Stomp your foot, light a match. Bakery. And then you bring bread home, and no matter how much you work out, you just keep putting weight on. But damn, it's good. It really is. So a couple of people said that they went over and watched the Stroming video and vomited. Kind of feel bad about that. But then again, I did 6 times. So if you only did it once, it's Kathy, doesn't that sound good? I mean, it really is. It's ridiculously good. Cowboy, have a great night. Thank you for spending some time with us. Do you guys cook at all? I cook nonstop. I am absolutely. Here's the thing, Orange Chicken. I wasn't into it, right? Uncle Gus, Goonie Goo Goo. That was always a really, really good one. He always would bring his wife with him. Really funny stuff. Okay, here we go. I do need to learn how to bread. I cook nonstop, people. I cook every single day. The nice thing is that the ingredients here are off the hook, and I found out by accident that I'm pretty damn good at it. I really am. In fact, you know what? Give me 2 seconds because this is worth it. This is worth it.
What are you showing?
Look, man, stay out of my business, Johnny Scoville.
I don't like the way you're talking.
You're talking to my man all wrong. Look at this. Tell me this isn't great. Culinary gangster Tommy Scoville. My wife, who was I think a little blown away by my cooking. The first time I cooked for her, I did what did I do? 5 cheese tortellini. Seems like this. If this was for money, why wouldn't they steal from the gem dealer next door? With abduction, they're putting a lot of risk into getting quick money. I think, Lexi, that this was family. I think this was done by Tommaso and Annie. And my reasoning behind that is because from the very first time they told us, stop looking at the family, they're not suspects. They spent 5 days over at their house. They were doing more extraction of evidence and spending more time there than they were at the crime scene. I find that really odd. They took her car. They also took 2 cars on that tremendous goat screwing that took place all those months ago, where they went out and JLR and everybody else was sprinting out there trying to beat them to the location, right? But how long did they have those cars? A couple of days, week tops. But the Annie and Tommaso car, I mean, they had it 730 days. I can't back that up. They had it a really long time though, right? They had it a really, really long time. So long that you started going, what the deuce is that? Yeah. See, Kathy Shields says family. No one else has motive, in my opinion. Except for the people that say, here's the other thing. It's a robbery gone wrong. Nothing was stolen, right? This was sort of my wheelhouse when I was a criminal. I stole things. It was kind of my get down.
We would have pulled a Grinch on that house.
But Johnny Scoville says we would have pulled a Grinch on that house. I mean, look, if you go in there and you accidentally injure the person, that means you're not going to steal anything. That was the payout. You were there to steal. Trust and believe you're going to steal, right? That doesn't make any sense. Do I think Nanos was involved? Angie Law. I do not. I do not think he was involved. By the way, the gem dealer from next door, there's not a lot of money. We're not talking about the kind of gems that were worth a fortune. When we hear gems, we think, ooh, right? But a couple of things. Number one, try insuring gems that you keep in a garage, right? If these were diamonds, rubies, sapphires, emeralds, anything like that, topaz, well, there might be some topaz in there. But the point is, those things get locked up inside. The stuff he's keeping out in that garage probably had a lot of quartz crystals, which are huge in that part of the country. I would imagine that these were not precious or semi-precious at best. We're not looking at the kind of money. When we hear gem dealer, we think, holy hell. I don't think Nanos is involved. I think he's incompetent. I can't think of any reason on God's green earth. I mean, how do you get a guy that's that close to retirement to jump in, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense. Risk and reward. What do you have a job that pays you cushy money for doing dick, right? You have you bought yourself a nice Corvette. You're making payments. You have a nice house, and you're the king shit of your little fiefdom there at Pima County as the sheriff of everything. And you kind of hustled your way in the door. I can't see what it would take. You're literally on retirement's doorstep. You're not looking at 40 more years on earth. I just don't see him selling out. I really don't. But I could be wrong. Who benefits whether ransom is paid, ransom and or inheritance, win either way. Right. However, here's what I kind of think, Lexi, and you make a great point, no lie, a very solid point. However, You got Savannah Guthrie, who's worth allegedly somewhere between $40 and $50 million. And she's jet setting around the world. She's interviewing leaders of countries, including presidents, and her sister, right? The other sister, the not famous one, is having to take care of mom, right? Mom has had a pacemaker put in. She and Tommaso do all of the legwork. They do everything to take care of her. And I think that they just got bitter. And I think they didn't want to wait. The woman had a pacemaker put in. I think that there was something, and I don't know what it is, but they wanted a quick payout now. Maybe they thought the inheritance is going to be about $1 million. If we grab this woman while she's still alive, my rich sister-in-law will give me $5 million. Greed is an ugly thing, man. Greed is a really, really ugly thing. Neptune Lioness, well, thank you. I'm feeling saucy, people. I can get back to the allegedly. By the way, 455 of you in here, smack that like button, hit subscribe, and hit the bell for notification. And that beautiful woman right there is Relatable Reese. That is my wife. Go over there and check out her channel, and make sure you check out the Johnny Scoville. Sheila Wainwright, thank you. She says, I totally agree.
Hey, if they go to the playlist on mine, there's a Tommy and Johnny section.
There is a Tommy and Johnny section playlist on Chase the Heat, and only about, 10%?
Yeah.
Might make you throw up if you watch it. The rest of it's pretty solid stuff. But we do eat sustroming on 2 or 3 different occasions. Then we ate, how much damn, what was that, 100-year-old egg? And then chugging a gallon of milk, which didn't go too well. Annie seems to be cut from a different cloth than her siblings. And I think that's worth mentioning, right? I think that's worth mentioning. Because her religion was way different. And guess what? I don't give a shit, so don't get all up in me. And I don't care if you think it's a satanic religion or whatever. There are people in here who are going to believe what they believe, so let's not step on anybody's eyeball on that one, huh? See what I did there?
I did.
So that is, however, a tough thing for families if, grandma, mom is dyed in the wool Christian and believes very, very strongly on certain things that are, that to her are sacrosanct. And then you've got the brother who believes the same thing. You got Savannah who believes the same thing. And then you've got someone that is a religion that to someone who has been a Christian for that long, it's probably a bit scary. And I doubt that she picked that up on her own. I would say that she probably got with Tommaso. That's got to be some friction. But I do think it's a jealousy thing. You know what I mean? But I could be wrong. We'll see. But I do think she's cut from a different cloth. I mean, although, I don't know. It's been weird to see how, again, I've talked about this a lot, but we didn't see Savannah Guthrie defend her sister and brother-in-law. They brought it up and she went, I think it's irresponsible for people to talk about him. For those people that have been around for a long time, do you think that's how I would defend Johnny Scoville? You think it's how I would defend my wife? I would be like, bitch, I promise you, my family had nothing to do with this. And it's starting to get to me. They're innocent. So that's a good word. That's you saying, I am throwing all of my weight behind the person that I love. They're innocent. Not, well, I think it's kind of irresponsible for the press to do this. That's not defending somebody. That's somebody that had to do an interview. And I mean, that should have been a softball, hit it out of the park. Leave my family alone. No. That was half freaking hearted at best. If that were Johnny Scoville and that's how he defended me, we'd fight. We'd break stuff. He's protected in his position. When he leaves, the protection is gone, and those wronged want revenge. Those he holds secrets for don't want him to talk.
We made an oath never to fight again.
We did make an oath never to fight again. We always break stuff. He's protected in his position. It was on your birthday. Lexi Lynn, let me know who we're talking about because I have toe drag. You know what I mean? Nice boy, always dragging his toes. Got toe drag, that is. She didn't defend, which means she knows something. That would be my gut. Skeeter says, if I was Savannah and the family had been cleared, I would have insisted Nanos and the FBI make a formal statement. Booyah! I mean, honestly, and if they're formally cleared, how were they formally cleared? Right? People have said a lot about polygraphs and this and that. No one has said, hey, they passed a polygraph. I would change my tune. I promise you I would. She didn't defend, which means, yeah, I agree. I think she knows something. I think that's why she didn't defend them. It's got to be hard. It's terrible. Oh, Nanos. Yeah, you know what? Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know what, Lexi? He is. He's in a position that you can be a jackass and be a sheriff because, you may ride out there. I don't think he would have a chance of getting elected again. This has really done a lot of damage, but who cares? He's old enough. It isn't going to screw with his retirement, right? He's sitting pretty. It's disturbing because I think he's completely inept. To release the crime scene after 33 hours is abhorrent. It really is. And then have to go back and go, sorry, we need to search again. I realize people have been traipsing in and out of here. I realize that the front of this thing gets less traffic than Space Mountain at Disney World, right? Like, holy crap. Everybody with a YouTube camera is walking in and out of there. They're sending pizzas. This has been embarrassing. Neptune Lioness says, Nanos is an asshat. I couldn't have said that better myself. Yeah, that's actually a great comment, Lexi. And thank you for letting me know. As I said, I have toe drag. It is very strange that Savannah didn't defend her family. Yeah, Neptune Lioness, it is, isn't it? Unless it isn't. Right? If you think or you have reason to believe that they did it, maybe you're a little less likely to defend them. And I would get that. Like, I get that. But something ain't right. Sikorsky, good to see you. I'm glad that you're here. Kathy Shields says, I don't think she wants to face the truth. Yeah. And you know what? I like the way you said this. Honestly. It would be hard, but Savannah Guthrie has to see the truth. I'm glad that you pointed out. It would have to be the hardest thing in the world. I literally, because of how I know how everybody in my family feels about my mom. So it's hard for me to even put it into, but I would struggle so hard. If they said, yeah, your brother whacked whoever in the family, I'd be like, there's no effing way. You know what I mean? I've hung out with him my whole life. We did a lot of partying. We've just spent a lot of time together. There's no chance it could be him. There's got to be some level to that. And if they actually lay out stuff that really sort of makes it so that she knows, then she's living in hell. She has to pretend. This is an ugly situation to find yourself in. Nanos incompetence has destroyed this investigation. Booyah. Excuse me. Yeah, Allie, you're right. There's no question, man. That's exactly what happened. He has destroyed this investigation. He called off the search. He released the crime scene, and he did all this a day and 6 hours after the crime? That's jacked up. Do I think Nancy will ever be found? Yeah, I do. I think it'll be a negotiating chip when they finally catch these people. And Angie, I absolutely believe they will catch these people. They're not going to catch them on our schedule. They're not going to catch them fast enough to make any of us happy. And that's kind of that's true crime, right? But why Nanos? Well, because he's incompetent, right? For real. Why did he get elected is a better question. But Nanos is worthless. He's worthless. He's a cop that doesn't know what he's doing. He has a public information officer who gets paid to be a public information officer. Who is it? Got any idea? Ever seen the person? Could you tell me if it's a man or a woman? Could you tell me if they're black or white? Right? Could you tell me if they are Latin? No, you absolutely could not. And do you know why? Because we've never met them. Why is he out doing interviews with the BBC? Why is this dude... He's made an asshat out of himself, a douche nozzle from day one. Like the scandal, and normally I wouldn't give a crap, but he's at a basketball game while they're serving the search warrants and doing all of that. A sheriff isn't going to be doing a ride along, but maybe don't be on camera, right? It's just not a good look. Yeah, you know what, Heather? This is a great comment. Nano says a lot hidden in the outback. Can't have the FBI running around. I happen to believe that. I happen to believe that. He cheated to get elected. Did someone just say that? Yeah, Cindy G. He absolutely did. What he did was, so the woman that was running against him, he said that she and the person that was leading her campaign, were out campaigning in uniform. So that's a violation. He put them under investigation. But once he did, he said she was also under investigation for fraud. She lost by so few votes that, they're obviously, if you think the person you're voting for is under investigation for fraud, you're not going to vote for them. That what he did was gangster, right? In the worst possible sense of the word. The guy's just a crook. He's a criminal. I'm not a fan. In my humble opinion, he's a crook and he's a criminal. And he's friggin' inept. Inept. Has absolutely no idea what he's doing. He waited days to bring in the FBI. He has an ego problem. And if I had to guess, I'd say at some level, maybe he's like that DOA guy. You know what I mean? Maybe he's overcompensating for a ridiculously small intellect. Only 400 votes, says Kathy Shields. The guy's a criminal, right? That is her opinion, right? And I know you have to say stuff like, none of this has been proven. Sue me. I think you're a crook. Not too worried about it, though. How is the squirrel doing? Squirrel is the greatest cat. She really is. It's, however, she's gotten on this kick where she just meows at me like she's really pissed off and then goes into the bedroom and jumps on the bed. And if I don't go in there and pet her for 5 or 10 minutes, she'll just keep doing this really loud meowing like I'm a jerk. And sadly, she has completely 100% trained me. His stupidity is criminal. Kathy, I agree with you, man. Gambling problem. Here's the deal on that. I think he was an insubordinate piece of shit that beat up an inmate and was always late for work. That's what I believe. And then if they find out that you're playing poker on a Friday night or whatever, then they're going to say all of these guys are breaking the law. A poker game for cash is gambling. It's illegal. And everybody does it. Nobody cares, right? I used to play in poker games when I was in college. I played in poker games when I lived in Utah. But if you're a cop, you're breaking a law that you're supposed to be enforcing with other people. But I think it was more of an add-on. I don't think the guy had a gambling addiction. I really don't. I don't think that's and I could be wrong. But here's the thing. If you have a gambling addiction, it's easy as shit. Nobody has a gambling addiction that can hide it. And I mean, you could hide it for a period of time. But if the people went in to investigate you, you're screwed. Because there's no way to gamble without taking large sums of money out of accounts, without putting large sums of money onto gambling platforms via your phone. All of these things are a reality. It is very, very easy. It's like a drug addiction. It is super easy to figure out exactly what's going on, right? And that hasn't happened. We haven't seen any of that. And trust and believe this guy's got people crawling up his ass with a microscope. Nanos is being investigated to beat shit. That's how we have figured out that he falsified his resume, the one that got him the job there in the first place. Absolutely 100%. And I'm kind of a retired criminal, but when I was active as hell, I absolutely had mad respect for people that did it right. You know what I mean? I did. Because first of all, I broke the law for a long time, and I've had cops beat the crap out of me. Mostly I don't swing at people. At law enforcement, I don't do any of that. I'm not a rabbit. I don't run when they come after me. I'm always super respectful. And I've had the crap kicked out of me by them anyway, right? They can't get rid of him if he's elected. Yeah, technically they can, right? Technically they can. And they could have voted the last time they were in to kick his ass out. Instead, they voted to turn over the case to the AG, right? The difference between those two is if you fire him, he's going to go to the union. He's going to start suing. He's going to say you didn't have any evidence. Turn it over to the attorney general. And if the attorney general finds enough information to say you lied about what you did, right? You lied about what you about your resume. You BS'd your way in the front door. If you can document that, now there's a crime. And you can go to bring the board back together and say to them, here's your chance. You can retire right now, and we won't even screw with your pension. But you want to stick around for the next couple of years, then we're going to prosecute you for this. Going to get your ass fired. So I think that that's what happened. It makes a lot more sense to me if he would have immediately had his lawyers come swooping in if they had voted to get rid of him. Because, I mean, nothing is proven. We can read the resume and know that this ain't right, but nothing has been proven. Now they've turned it over to the Attorney General's office to investigate whether or not he falsified his curriculum vitae in order to be able to get hired on, not as the sheriff, but just as a cop in Pima County. There were gaps in his resume that didn't appear because he's been lying about it. Like, this is kind of a bad thing. This is kind of a bad thing. So, but I didn't take any offense by that, people. It actually makes, I come at this from the criminal side of it. I do. It makes more sense to me. But I absolutely had mad respect for cops that did it right. And you know what's crazy is those cops are usually super respectful of the people that they arrest. The way they look at it, it's, you're breaking the law. We're trying to stop you. And today I was better than you, and you're under arrest. But they're, yeah, I absolutely respect cops that do it right, or feds. And like I said many times before, and I'll always say it, the U.S. Marshals are the coolest guys I've ever met in my life. Great sense of humor, treat you like a human being. Just good dudes. And they made sure I was fed, made sure I was taken care of. They were really good dudes. He doesn't care about his department. He'd step down if he did. He'd dig in. Yeah, he's digging his heels in because this is his identity at this point. And you know what? We should have seen that coming, because when this case started, he's on there saying, we're definitely going to catch this guy, and then weeping, right? I'm sorry, but not for nothing. I'm not trying to sound like a friggin' caveman, right? I'm not trying to do the toxic masculinity thing. But I don't want some dude that's going to cry, right? My mom's missing. I want to see him grit his teeth. We're getting her back. We're going after these people. He's literally weeping. And he's doing it friggin' everywhere. The BBC, because our friends in Great Britain, right? That's who we ought to be talking to. Don't get out there and work on this shit. Just do interviews with anybody with a swinging microphone. Nano seems like he's padding his pension. I mean, I don't know. I think that this guy's drug of choice is ego. Yeah, look at that. Booyah, good timing. Man has a big ego. Yeah, I think it's his drug of choice. I think praise, attention, I think it's his drug of choice. He gets his rocks off. That's why his information officer isn't handling this, right? But Heather says we hate the BBC. But the truth of the matter is, there's been so much misinformation in this. Like, you remember the guy that worked for Pima County Sheriff, and they said Pima County Sheriff's deputy kidnaps a woman, and he did. He had her in the back of the car trying to get her to perform sex acts so that he could release her. Bad dude, right? But that got twisted in how it was reported to say, this is all part of the Nanos. Nanos is a bad sheriff. But they were trying to tie this guy into the Nancy Guthrie case, which is patently absurd, right? He kidnapped a girl at the police station. He's probably the guy that kidnapped Nancy Guthrie. And people ran with this, right? Content creators did stories on it for days. I was like, you think maybe they went down and saw what days the guy was working? You think they might have checked into that? People start thinking that everybody involved in this is literally inept. And I promise you, the FBI is pretty good at what they do. Sadly, I have a lot of experience in this, and the FBI's got their shit together massively. They know what they're doing. Do you have any interest in covering the Lynette Hooker case? The woman who allegedly fell out of a dinghy in the Bahamas. I think your boating expertise would be helpful. I do. I've actually done one show, maybe two shows on it. And here's my take on that if you happen to be following it. her husband's a dirtbag, and he absolutely whacked her. There you go. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. I got a bad vibe from Mr. Hooker. Maybe the feds are running a dual investigation, Nanos and the Nancy stuff. Oh, Lexi, I promise you they were running the Nanos investigation before this one started. That's why Nanos can't stand the FBI, because they've been investigating what he did to become I almost said mayor. What an embarrassment. What he did to become sheriff. Absolutely 100%, Lexi. They have been investigating him since before the Guthrie thing started, which is one of the reasons that he can't freaking stand them. Kathy says the FBI is no joke. It isn't. And do you know what that stands for, by the way? Johnny Scolo? You know what FBI stands for?
What?
Forever bothering Italians. But I'm bumped. The other guy who was let go for something changed his name, and now he's working for Nanos. Are you talking about the rapist? Because he tried to save the job of a guy that sexually assaulted a girl at a holiday party. See that? Allie agrees. Lynette Hooker was totally whacked by her husband. For those that don't know, there was a case among the people that resource officers, all of the people that work at high schools to protect students, all came together for, it was either a Christmas or a New Year's party. And one of the officers, who was a woman, became intoxicated, where a guy pushed up on her and basically sexually assaulted her. And it was reported, and there was a criminal case, but Nanos never had internal affairs investigate this guy. And that's really weird. And what he said was, well, I mean, he's already being prosecuted. And if he's convicted, well, there's no point in us going through the investigation and all that bullshit, because the guy can get convicted and then get out and go work somewhere else. If internal affairs does this, it's going to leave a permanent paper trail. On the outside chance he gets probation or something where he's not doing any time, it looked to everybody on the planet Earth as if Nanos was just trying to protect the ability for this guy to get a job later in life as a cop. And you know what? That's friggin' disturbing. I agree with you completely on Hooker case. Shame she didn't leave him before he did this. Yeah. Here's the thing. Here's my opinion. If a guy puts hands on you once, he's going to do it again. I don't think that this is something that spontaneously happens. I think it's a learned behavior. I think people see their father do it, and he probably saw his father do it. I think that there really needs to be a screw loose for somebody to want to put hands on a woman. By the way, go ahead and do a little research, because it has been said by people that I had domestic violence charges, never been accused of it, never had a case of it. It's absolute BS. It's just one more lie. But never happened. You can go and run that record. Kathy Shields, about a month ago, I heard a psychic say she was strangled in the cabin of the boat. That wouldn't surprise me. Barbara, wait, shame on you. I'll go look for your Hooker coverage. Reese, hopefully Reese is gone. There's no Hooker coverage, not that often. So many women think they can change an abuser. You can't, sadly. You can't. That's just one of those things that people continue to do. Now, are there people that have hit somebody because they were so drunk and then they never did it again? I'm sure that has happened. I'm sure that has happened. But it's a frightening thing, and there are too many people that die from domestic violence charges, right? Domestic violence crimes. It's just there are way too many people that die from it. It's not if somebody hits you, get away from them.
Even once, that's it.
Yeah. You know what? I really appreciate that, Cindy G. She said, I can't see you or Johnny putting hands on a woman. No, my father would have gotten rid of us when we were in our teens. It was one of the things my dad hammered home more than anything in the world. Don't they have to be certified in Arizona to be a cop? Wouldn't you think they could pull it? And then he could be a cop so he couldn't be sheriff? Let me see that. Don't they have to be certified in Arizona to be a cop? Well, here's the thing. To be a cop in Arizona, Nanos came from Texas. He was an El Paso cop in Texas. And then he moved to Arizona and put in his application. But he trimmed the shit out of it. Like the time that he was on suspension for beating up an inmate and all these different things kind of got sanitized out of it. And that's the problem. That's what we're looking at now.
The church
right? He churched up the hell out of it, man. Yeah. Average woman takes up to 7 times before she leaves an abusive situation. Yeah, I believe that. Sadly, I believe that. And Barbara Waite sums this up pretty well when she says, cemeteries are full of women who thought their man would never really hurt them. You know, a case that we've covered pretty extensively and will continue to do so as news comes up is the Michelle and Rob Reiner murder case. And that's a perfect example. Domestic violence doesn't have to be the husband or the wife, right? It can be anybody within a family. And the police in Brentwood had been called out to that house for domestic violence calls so many times. And allegedly, Rob Reiner told a lot of his friends that he was afraid for his son. He really believed that his son might kill him. And sadly, nobody ever did anything about it. And now the two of them are in a graveyard because they just, he may have been, crazy or whatever, but he wasn't going to hurt him. AB and Surviving the Survivor Nation reported today that mom was told by Coast Guard that Lynette made it back to Soulmate that night, and there is evidence she was killed on board. I believe that. And you know what? I got mad respect for the people over at STS, Surviving the Survivor. I've done a lot of shows with them over there. I love the family. They're just good people. Yeah, no, don't feel sorry for saying that. Yeah. Sorry, I have to say domestic violence has no gender. No, it really does not. Oh my God, Lexi, I am so sorry. I really am. I am so sorry. I hope that I didn't say anything offensive, right? Sometimes it's hard to talk about these subjects without and especially doing it fast. I hope that I handled this subject respectfully. That is one of the worst things I've ever heard, truthfully. She said, my mom thought the same thing. Her second husband moved us to a new house. That night I stayed at my grandma's. That night he drugged my mom and dumped her naked in a field in January. I'm really glad that you spent the night at grandma's. People, do you have any idea what just happened, Johnny Scoville? How about 2 hours and 2 minutes? I'm back, people. What do you think of that? I'm back.
Don't shut it down, faggot.
Okay, then. About 2 months ago, a woman here where I live was gunned down by her abusive, soon-to-be ex-husband in the Walmart parking lot while her children were in the car. Oh, my Lord. And she was loading groceries. How absolutely horrific. I wonder what he did with Lynette Hooker's body. If I had to guess, I'd say he weighed it down. But, yeah, see, Inspecting Gadget gets it. I'm back. It's been a long time since I was able to go 2 hours. And that's, why, thank you, Todd. What a nice thing to say. And Todd says you're back and better than ever. I'm feeling good. I really am.
I'll be live tomorrow.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. It's a great song.
Tell them I'll be live tomorrow.
Johnny Scoville is going live tomorrow. Make sure you look for that. And do me a favor, get over there and check out Relatable Reese. I promise you'll thank me. She's absolutely hysterically funny. Nice, 350 likes. That's pretty damn impressive. It really is. Thank you, Lexi. That's a kind thing to say. Yeah, stamina, right? Hold on, look at that. Oh, what's up? What's up? Feeling pretty good about myself, not going to lie to you. Hey, you know what? Kathy Shields, thank you. And thanks for all of the input. Boy, there's a lot of great comments tonight. This is why I dig this. It is. Have I ever been pepper sprayed? Surely you jest. I was pepper sprayed every single day for an entire month. Literally. I was at the special management unit at Lewisburg, and we were bucking. We were trying to get our radios and pictures of our family. And they said, no, you're not going to have anything while you're here at the special management unit, which is like a punishment yard, the worst of the worst kind of thing. And so we wouldn't hand our trays back. And at every single meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they had to do a cell extraction to get the trays back. And we did it for almost an entire month. I think it was 30 days out of 31. and they tapped out and gave us our radios. But I got gassed so much that for 2 or 3 months, everything I ate required no pepper. And my brother, the lunatic, went into a tent, and it was what? Those were the grenades?
Yeah, chocolate gula.
Yeah, just
chocolate fruit top.
yeah. You can go check out Johnny Skull. My brother is the king of peppers and all things peppers, pepper spray, pepper whatever. He's done it all. But yeah, I've had a lot of pepper spray. I would rather be tased twice than pepper sprayed once. I'd rather be tased 3 times than pepper sprayed once. It just sucks. All right, people. How high would you rate your experience on the Scoville scale of being pepper sprayed? I would put it at a 5, and the tube of terror was a 10.
Yeah, and listen, police pepper spray is 2 to 4.5 million.
Police pepper spray is 2 to 4 million Scoville units. But what was the tube of terror? 13?
No, it has 13 million on it, but it's probably about 2.5.
Yeah, horrible.
I shot myself in the eye with 9 million.
You shot yourself in the eye with 9 million?
Yeah, picture.
Well, that was just bad. That was just a bad idea.
It was terrible.
Why would you do such a thing?
It was an accident.
Which cat just walked by?
I can't find score.
That's because she's going to be in the wardrobe, the little shit. Tommy was when Nanos got hired 40 years ago. Cracker Jacks came with a prize. His was a badge. Well played, Sam Lamb. I think I'll leave that one up there for the end. You know what, Paula? I told the Wiffle Pop that I was going to go for 2 hours. Come here, I just found her. I don't know, but she just came jumping out. Look at Squirrel Nut Zipper. Such a good kitty. She was in the window seat. This is my girl. She did. She's a good kitty. All right, everyone. Between now and the next time I see you, put a little love in your heart, and be looking for me to do more content on this because sadly we've switched to a new part of this where if people don't keep this alive, it's going to die. And regardless of how this works out, somebody needs to pay for just how poorly handled all of this was. Thank you, Auntie KK. You are very kind. All right, people, I will see you tomorrow. Squirrel is a tortie. Between now and the next time I see you, put a little love in your heart. I'm Tommy. We'll see you on the next one. God bless.